welcome. My name is Braxton. I'm from UFL TV, and I'm here with, will you introduce yourself?
Hi, Braxton. My name is Marc Dyer. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I am a Utah State certified residential appraiser, and I'm also a licensed real estate agent with the state of Utah.
That's really
So
cool.
if you need somebody that's good with values, then I'm your man, which is something that's usually important to people in their real estate. I've been working in the real estate market in Utah for almost 23 years now. So I've experienced the market when it was not so good, like in 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
Also when the market's been really good, like it has been the last 5 to 10 years or so.
that's cool. That's wonderful, actually. Okay, I have some questions for you. Okay,
Great.
so my first question is, what is your experience with real estate as it relates to divorce? How does that usually work out?
So I think most people are familiar with what a real estate agent does, mainly because of the popular cable TV shows. I think people are probably less familiar with what an appraiser does, because a lot of times, like if you're buying a home, an appraiser shows up before you occupy the home. So you typically won't ever see them. You will see them if you refinance, but so if you'd like, I can explain real quickly what the appraisal process is like.
Sure.
Appraiser will typically come to your home, walk through the home, measure it, inspect it, take pictures of it, gather all the pertinent information on it, such as square footage, condition, quality, the acreage, your location, basically any of those things that would affect the value. Then we take all of that data that we've collected and import it into an appraisal form. The most common approach to calculating the value is the sales comparison approach. This is where we take sales in your market. Typically, we take anywhere between 3 and 6 sales, import their data into a form, and then make adjustments based on differences in your home and the comparable sales, and basically come up with the value that way. Appraisals can be used differently in the in the divorce process. I've been in situations where my appraisal is the only one being considered. I've also been in situations where I'm just doing the appraisal for one party and the other party's getting their own appraisal. Then if there's a discrepancy in the two values, an agreement can't be reached, appraisers can be called to testify in court, basically to explain how they came up with the value. Another situation is if one side is staying in the home, the vacating party will need to be compensated for the equity that's in the home, unless they happen to just be a really kind-hearted person and want to give away all their equity. But that's, in my experience, typically not the case. So for example, if there's a loan on the home for $100,000 and the market value of the home is $600,000, then that $500,000 in equity will need to be accounted for. Typically, the vacating party will be wanting compensation for that. Vacating party will also want to make sure they get the loan, make sure the other person gets the loan refinanced to get them off of title, off of the loan, just to protect themselves in case a default were to happen later on down the line. So the equity can be split 50-50. Many other things may be considered that could affect how it's split, like employment, dependents, living expenses, things like that. Another situation where it involves real estate is when couples just decide neither one of them wants to stay in the home. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe it's just easier to sell the home because their needs aren't what they were at one time. So they want to sell the home before the divorce decree is issued, which as a licensed real estate agent, I can also help with. So I can kind of do both sides.
It's wonderful. What makes real estate important to the parties in a divorce? Why is it such a contentious thing, do you think?
So it's one of the most contentious aspects of divorce because the most valuable and significant asset for most couples, divorcing or not, is their home. That's going to be the most valuable investment people make. So when you're dividing that, it can be contentious, whether you're going through mediation or settlement through the courts. So with regard to an appraisal, it's a good idea to spend the $400 to $1,000 to find out what your home is worth. It could end up saving you tens of thousands of dollars down the line or in the settlement process. Or if you're just ready to sell and be done with that home, it's equally important to hire a good, experienced real estate agent that knows the market.
It's good. Is it hard to sell a house that was an asset in a divorce case? Does that affect its market value or anything like that?
It really shouldn't. There's no stigma attached to a home that's being sold to divorce. In fact, an agent has a confidentiality duty to you not to disclose any information that could weaken your position in the transaction. So if I were selling your home, I really am only required to disclose any material defects in the home. Sellers are also typically required to complete a property condition disclosure as part of their due diligence. This is where they disclose any possible defects in the property's condition, things like a leaky roof, mechanical problems, drainage or sewer problems, things like that. But there aren't any questions on that disclosure that ask for the reasons that you're selling the home, or anything that would have to do with divorce. So it shouldn't, there's not really any stigma that goes along with it that would kind of scare people off.
Okay, that's good. What is the process of putting a house on the market during a divorce as compared to after the decree of divorce is issued?
So the actual listing process shouldn't be any different. As far as the reasons to sell during or after the divorce, that's probably a question that's best answered by you and your attorney together. And you can decide what your goals are with the real estate, depending on your situation. And then after that, you can involve a real estate agent to decide, when you want to sell. Everyone's financial situation is different. You may want to sell the home before the divorce decree is issued just to help pay for the settlement because divorce can be expensive. If you wait until after the decree is issued, there may be less flexibility with what happens to the proceeds from the sale. Typically, Utah law demands that the property be divided in an equitable way, but that doesn't necessarily mean equal. Or if the property was acquired during the marriage. If the property was acquired during the marriage, an equal split is more likely. Whereas if it was a short-term marriage and real estate was owned prior to the marriage, the judge, as I understand, the judge typically seeks to return both parties to what their economic situation was before the marriage. One thing you may want to consider too, though, is if you are selling the home, is how you handle the personal property inside the home. Sellers and, for new homes developers, they spend a lot of money staging homes. So before you clear everything out of your home, that may be one thing that you need to consider. For potential buyers, it's easier for them to picture themselves in a home if it looks like it's been lived in, or if it has been being lived in. So don't just clear everything out and make it look,
Aaron.
like a vacant home. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, has there been a time when the parties in a divorce case have actively worked against you during the selling process? How did you respond to that?
So I haven't experienced the parties working against me in the selling of a home. Um, Typically because it benefits both parties to sell the home at the highest price point. Um, so everyone involved is kind of for that. However, in appraising a home for a divorce, I have experienced the opposing party being difficult. For example, they've been reluctant to even give me access to the home. I've had one party that I was doing an appraisal for, the opposing party. They didn't want to give me access to the master bedroom at all, or the master bathroom, which makes my job quite a bit more difficult.
Yeah, that seems
So,
like a weird one.
yeah.
Yeah,
So, that's a little bit difficult to handle. Another thing that they can do to be a little bit difficult is they want a copy of the appraisal. They want me to send the appraisal to them. Whereas legally, I can't do that. I can only send the appraisal to the party that engaged me to do the appraisal. Um, so yeah, I would say just be as accommodating as possible, even if it is contentious, because it benefits you in the long run.
okay. Um, what are the common pitfalls that people can fall into during the selling process?
So that's a great question. I would say a common pitfall is not trusting the professionals that you work with. Um, everyone has everyone kind of has real estate as an interest or a hobby, um, but not everyone has an understanding of what establishes value in a real estate market. For example, if I put $50,000 into my landscaping, people would assume, well, you should be able to ask $50,000 more for your house then when you sell it. And that's is typically not the case. In fact, on an appraisal form, as it comes standard, there's not even a place or a field in the form for landscaping. Um, I do add one, and I think most appraisers do because they realize there's value there. Um, Having landscaping as opposed to not is definitely a
Yeah,
plus. Um, but it's typically not a dollar for dollar thing. Or there's something similar to that would be like solar panels.
yeah,
Um, an appraiser can only give value to the solar if the system is owned, so they can't be leased or financed if the equipment is the security for the loan. Because if there's default on the loan for the solar, then typically the company wants to come get the equipment as the
yeah,
security. So um, so we can't give that value in those situations. There was a time when solar salesmen were going door to door and telling people, "Hey, each solar panel that you have on your roof will add $1,000 to the value of your home automatically," and that's just typically not the case. I have to give them value. I have to find a similar comparable home in your market that has solar panels. So we have to have something concrete you can point to that shows the value.
yeah, some
Um,
sort of baseline.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I would say the common pitfall is not trusting the people that work in the industry every day. That being said, if you have evidence that your agent or your appraiser has done a poor job, don't hesitate to move on to somebody else. Like every other industry, some people are better at their job than others. Um, so yeah, I would definitely consider that.
okay. Do you ever have difficulty convincing people of the value of their home? Is somebody like, well, I don't really believe you that it's worth X amount, it should be lower, or, it might be higher than it should be.
I do at times. Um, someone will find out that their neighbor sold their house for X amount above what the appraisal came in at. And they typically won't look at all the details as to why, or they won't consider, maybe the house down the street is 1,000 square feet bigger, or they completely updated the home within the last year. But typically, in my experience, when you place a 30-page report in front of somebody that's got market statistics, trends, comparable sales, and they can see all the adjustments, reasonable people typically accept it and understand it.
Okay, that's good. Do you enjoy working on real estate that is associated with divorce? Why or why not?
Honestly, yes and no. I really enjoy what I do. Helping simplify the process of people dividing their assets is a big help to people because it is so contentious, or can be contentious. Appraisers are one of the few people involved in the whole process that don't have any bias. And as a real estate agent, helping people find an ideal living situation is extremely fulfilling. If you help somebody find a home that they really love, it's just an awesome thing to be a part of. The only downside to working in real estate as it concerns divorce is that in many cases it's a tough and disappointing situation that people are in. Divorce is not the situation anybody wanted to be in when they started their marriage. So,
Yeah.
so that can be the tough part of it.
Okay. How long does it take for a house to be sold? Does a divorce case pending change that? And after the divorce, the decree of divorce is issued, does that change that even further or less so?
So it shouldn't, despite the rise of interest rates in the past couple of years. The market for sellers in Utah is still generally pretty good. I can give you some statistics as far as what can be expected as far as days on market.
I think that would be great.
For Salt Lake County, for example, the average days on market is 37 days. So days on market is the time from when it was listed until it was placed under contract, not when it was actually closed. The median days on market is 25 days. So right around a month. So that's still, real favorable time for the seller. For Utah County, it's pretty similar. 40 average days on market is 47 days. Median days on market is 32 days. Davis County is 43 days, and for the average, and median days on market is 26. So really, the time should fit in to the divorce process pretty well. When you get to 90 days on the market and above, sellers typically have less flexibility, becomes less favorable for them.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
One thing you may consider also, as far as timing goes, if it's a cash buyer, the sale can be closed in a week or two. It's typically pretty. Most transactions that require a mortgage, if your approval process has already been completed, it's typically around 3 to 4 weeks. So it's a little bit longer, but still pretty, with the market as it is, still pretty good. That takes a little bit longer because both sides have to do their due diligence with things like an appraisal, inspection, making any agreed upon repairs, things like that.
Okay. That's good to know. What can people do to make selling their house in the process of divorce better? What are some tips or advice that you would give people going through divorce in order to make the process of selling their house just better and easier on everyone?
So as we kind of discussed, selling real estate within the parameters of divorce, it can be difficult. Leaving a home that you've loved and spent a lot of time in is not typically something that most people want to do. But my advice would be try not to be overly emotional about it. Homes definitely have sentimental value, but realize that you will build memories and have emotional attachment with your new home as well. It could even be a better situation than the one that you were previously in. So just be open to the change that's coming. It might, like I say, turn into an even better situation for you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Thank you, Braxton. It's been a pleasure.